Hello friends, this is Adam with Movie Guy 365, and in this video I'm going to go over 10 horror movies you absolutely need to own on 4K. If you're a regular viewer of my channel, you know in the last few months I did similar videos, one focusing on sci-fi and the other fantasy, and I will go ahead and link those in the comment section if you want to check them out. So this being October as of this recording, I thought, hey, why not? Let's do a horror movies you absolutely need to own on 4K. Before we begin, these movies are not in any particular order, so my number one is not necessarily my number one. These are just randomly listed. And also, I'm taking into account basically the overall disc quality, both in picture and audio. And of course, all film being subjective, you may not particularly care for the movies that are on my personal list, but that's why I always encourage you to put in the comment section below what your top recommendations of horror movies on 4K should be. All right, so let's not waste any more time. Let's dive into my first pick. So the first horror movie 4K you should definitely check out is Universal's release of The Invisible Man. I would say, arguably, of all the titles I have on my list, this one beats them all when it comes to audio because this Dolby Atmos is a beast. You get all those great atmospheric effects. I mean, the energy and oomph in this track is honestly second to none. It is that good. But you also get a really solid visual presentation. It's dark, it's moody, and it's got a good grading attached to it. I really enjoy the movie. I think it takes the whole Invisible Man, movies that have been done in the past and gives it a modern twist. And I think this is how they do it right. I really enjoy it, but yes, if you're going to own it on 4K. This list is going to have a couple of imports on it, but I mean, rightfully so that these should be on this list. And my first one is going to be George Romero's Dawn of the Dead by Second Sight. Second Sight, honestly, as far as international labels go, they are top of the game. They put out some stellar 4K discs. And while, yes, Dawn of the Dead is an older movie, why I included it on this list is not only is the 4K really well done, but you get 3 different cuts of the film all in 4K. I can't think of really, there's very few examples of movies that do this. And Second Sight is honestly doing the Lord's work here because visually, these look fantastic. They are well done 4K upticks. The audio, I believe, are simply ports from the prior Blu-rays, but they still sound really good. One of my favorite George Romero movies, one of my favorite zombie movies, the original Dawn of the Dead on 4K. It's worth importing. And if you can go for that extra special edition out there, it's going to cost you a few bucks, but it is well worth it. And I highly recommend you pick this one up. When I did my sci-fi movie recommendations on 4K list a couple months ago, I got a couple of comments why I did not include this one. I'm talking about John Carpenter's The Thing. And mostly because I really put this one in the horror category. Yes, it has that little sci-fi element to it, but I think it is pure horror. And I think the 4K does a great job giving you this film in the way it should have been seen and heard because I really enjoy it. I know there was some controversy about it, but I personally found that the 4K disc of The Thing to be a great audio and visual experience. They have a nice DTS:X audio mix. I thought it sounded really good. And I think the film itself, I don't want to say it's underrated. It is definitely a cult classic at the very least, but if you enjoy this film in any way, shape, or form, I highly recommend you check out the 4K. It is well worth the investment. My next suggestion is another import of a Second Sight release, and this one is It Follows. Wow, talk about a transformation from the Blu-ray to the 4K because this is a fantastic upgrade. Not only do you get those inky black levels just really enhanced with HDR and Dolby Vision, but for me, I don't know about you, but I love a good Dolby Atmos with a horror film. I think probably than any other genre, it's most effective with a horror movie. And they did a great job here because this one has so many fun audio cues. And it's just, if you go back to that old Blu-ray, it's not even close because just in the audio department, it's going to blow it away. It's a very recent release. You can still pick it up over at Amazon UK and other international retailers, but I do suggest you check out It Follows, even if you were somewhat unimpressed with the Blu-ray here in the States. The 4K will absolutely change your mind. Of course, this wouldn't be a horror movie list without putting some iconic characters in this one. And I'm going to go back to director John Carpenter for probably his most iconic, Halloween. Now, not specifically any Halloween 4K release, because Lionsgate released the movie on 4K initially, but Shout Factory, Scream Factory got a hold of it. There's a whole new look to the movie. It actually, I absolutely prefer this one. Yes, you get a whole bunch of extras and everything. That's great. But the look of this new 4K, I think, improves upon the Lionsgate, which I felt was a little blown out, especially in daytime scenes. But it's dialed in nearly perfectly on the Shout Factory disc. It's also really one of those movies that you need to have in your collection. I think most people do. But if you're still new to Halloween in general, which, hey, who are you? But anyway, skip the Lionsgate disc, put the couple of extra dollars into the Shout Factory one. You will not be disappointed. This next suggestion is one of the more recent entries on this list, at least for theatrical films making their way to 4K. Evil Dead Rise. Wow. I mean, this is easily going to be one of the best audio mixes of 2023. And if you have a full Atmos setup, you are in for a treat because, wow, this one is aggressive, it's very dynamic, and there is a lot going on. If you have a home theater, you could easily just put this one on loop during a Halloween night. Maybe people walking by your house are gonna be like, what the hell is going on here? This film just is aggressive. It's very entertaining as far as audio goes. And yes, visually, I think it looks fantastic as well because you get that atmospheric, darkness. HDR really helps this one out. Colors, what little there are full. And this has a really good looking palette. I enjoy the movie a lot, but the 4K is absolutely the way to go here. There are so many boutique labels handling very small, obscure movies. And I think more often than not, they do a really good job whenever something they have comes to 4K. So for my next pick, I'm going to go with the Blue Underground release of Dead and Buried. This is a movie that is, I think, one of the most atmospheric on this list because you have that unassuming beginning where it's bright, cheerful colors, and then it goes right into dreary, mad scientist, living dead type territory, and everything looks fantastic with the Blue Underground release. You get that HDR and Dolby Vision pass. It really enriches the palette well, and it takes this movie, and I don't think it's ever looked as good as it does here on 4K. Blue Underground does a great job. They need to start putting out a little bit more stuff. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Their output has been a little less lately, but I recommend you get Dead and Buried, and it also has 3 different covers you might want to search for. I recommend this one very highly, and it may be one of the more obscure on this video, but it is worth checking out on 4K. And I had to add this one, and thankfully the 4K is a solid upgrade. Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. Come on, you need to own this one because this is classic horror cinema and still holds up as one of the best of all time. And I think Warner Brothers did a really solid job here. Visually, it looks fantastic. It looks great. Yes, there's no audio upgrade here, but I think Kubrick would have probably preferred it to be what it is, or even just, just as base as it was intended. But visually, the upgrade, it is great. Looks fantastic. You get that extra bit of detail with the 4K resolution bump. And it is a movie that is iconic. I know that word gets thrown around a lot, but I think when it comes to cinemaphiles or just horror fans in general, The Shining is going to be near the top of everybody's list, and definitely get the 4K. And I remember being so happy when I heard that a 4K release of Poltergeist, one of my all-time favorite horror movies, was coming to 4K, and thankfully, it turned out really well. I love the transfer on this one. I think it's really solid. I only wish that they would have sprung for a Dolby Atmos because this film could have absolutely used it. But the 5.1 is still really good. But I think if you are going in for a visual upgrade, you will not be disappointed. Yes, this is more of a personal pick on this list, but I stand by it all the way. It is a classic horror film. It holds up extremely well. And with the 4K, it has never looked better. And for my last recommendation of a horror movie you definitely need to own on 4K, this one is going to go to Dario Argento's Susperia. I am so happy that we live in a world where Dario Argento films are steadily making their way to 4K on a regular basis. I have several of them in my collection. But for me, heads above the rest is Susperia, because this is a stunning transfer. Whoever did the behind the scenes work on this one should be applauded. And actually, somebody reached out to me when I did my initial review who worked on it. I mean, it was a wonderful transfer. This looks fantastic. The reds in this film are gorgeous. I mean, that grading really enriches the palette very well. This is, I think, really one of the best looking 4K discs on this list. So yes, Dario Argento Susperia. I highly recommend you check it out. And if you do for the first time, make sure it is on 4K. So those are my 10 horror movie recommendations you definitely need to own on 4K. If you're interested in any of the titles I talked about in this video, I will leave Amazon links in the comments section. If you use them, it really helps out the channel. But now it's your turn. Let us know all the horror movies on 4K you would recommend to the rest of us. Sound off down below. In the meantime, please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. So until next time, this is Adam with Movie Guy 365. I will see you at the movies.